Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal posted on Twitter this Sunday, the student loan moratorium ends in September, but 2/3 of borrowers say it would be difficult to restart paying them. There's a crisis looming. POTUS needs to cancel student debt now.
Jayapal was referring to a recent Pew Charitable Trust survey that found more than 2/3 of federal student loan borrowers said they're not ready to resume their monthly payments. And around 60% of borrowers who are taking advantage of the relief said they were using the extra cash for essentials, including rent and food.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called on Biden to cancel student debt while also advocating to extend the pause on payments.
We are also continuing to call on President Biden to use his existing legal authority to cancel up to $50,000 of student debt. This pause has actually shown how important canceling student debt is to borrowers and to our economy.
You might remember that partial student debt cancellation was one of President Biden's promises on the campaign trail, but there's no sign of him fulfilling on that promise, at least yet. Biden has also yet to complete other campaign agenda items, such as raising the federal minimum wage to $15, again, at least this far into his term. Of course, he isn't the only politician that doesn't fulfill campaign promises.
We have a new exclusive Hill-HarrisX data on the matter. Let's take a look.
The poll found more voters said the Democratic Party is better at keeping campaign promises at 37%. 29% said the Republican Party is better, and 34% said both parties are the same when it comes to fulfilling campaign agenda items.
The survey also found Democratic voters were more likely to say their party is better at keeping campaign promises at 78%, while 62% of Republican voters said the same of the GOP. Roughly 60% of independents said both parties are the same when it comes to keeping campaign promises. Ryan, what's your take on this?
I think the most interesting thing that you can take out of this is that 78 to 62% gap, whereas 78% of Democrats think that their party is going to keep promises. 60% of Republicans think their party will. I think in general they're probably both wrong to think that, but it is revealing and I think intuitive that Democrats at this stage of our political evolution are more contented with their party than Republicans are, and I think that's reflective of what you see. What do you think?
Well, I mean, Republicans don't really seem to make a whole lot of campaign promises, right? They're the party of no, the party of resistance, even though, I know the left kind of has the resistance title at the moment, but really that should belong to the GOP because they just resist any sort of change and they push back on things. And really the promises I feel like they make are, we're going to stop XYZ thing from happening. And because that doesn't happen and the momentum continues moving forward and Democrats continue to inch, and maybe it is only an inch, but inching their way forward in the direction that they want, whether it be on social issues or, whatever the discussion is, I think it does leave Republicans feeling like, I thought we said nothing would change and now we're having a little bit of change and this change is just too much for me. So I see maybe a little bit of that happening.
Yeah, and I think in that number, you're seeing that their highest profile campaign promise that they made over the last 10 years, they're going to repeal Obamacare. They repealed it 50 times when Obama was president, and of course, it didn't get through the Senate, but if it would have, Obama would have vetoed that repeal. Then as soon as they controlled both the House, the Senate, and the White House, they didn't repeal Obamacare. So Fox News and the Republican Party, spent a decade telling its voters that this was the thing that they were going to do. And it was quite simple. It didn't take a whole lot of interpretation. We're going to take this Obamacare law, we're going to repeal it. We've done it before, put us in power. We will sign this repeal into law. They didn't do it. According to the Poynter Institute's PolitiFact that tracks presidential promises, former President Trump kept 23% of his campaign promises while breaking 53%, and he compromised on 22%. So far in Biden's presidency, the tracker notes Biden has completed 12% of his campaign promises, with 42%, quote, in the works. A lot depends on, what you, a lot depends on the details there and which were the highest profile promises. Trump.
And the night is young for Biden, too. I mean, it's a little too early at this point. We'll see after the first term how many campaign promises he actually keeps.
Right. And
but it is interesting.
Yeah. And some of it's how aggressive you are about pushing forward the promises that you made most vocally. Look, Trump, for instance, the biggest thing that I can think of that he promised through the campaign was his wall. And I think a lot of his supporters understood the wall as a metaphor for bigger policies, and would have actually been okay if he didn't actually build the wall. But he shut down the government, failed to get authorization to build the wall, then went ahead and built the wall anyway. So that's one of the more kind of remarkable moments of pushing kind of almost beyond the law to execute on a campaign promise.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Biden actually ends up keeping fewer of his campaign promises than Trump. And I think it's because Biden isn't as likely to use the bully pulpit like Trump was. He made that Republican Party move on certain things in directions that we never thought that they would move on before, and kind of going along with certain pieces of his agenda, like more funding for certain things, or, they kind of broke from traditional Republican values in a lot of ways, even on things such as getting troops out of certain areas of the Middle East, and, things that they wouldn't normally go after. He used the bully pulpit and kind of made them do it, even if it, he could have used it even more. But Biden is not going to use the bully pulpit at all, really. Right. He's just going to say, come on, man.
Yes, that sounds about right. I will give Biden credit for getting troops out of Afghanistan. It looks like he's going to get troops out of Iraq as well. But you're right. I think a lot of his promises were made just in the heat of the primary to say, like, I'm not as left-wing as Bernie Sanders, but I'm still, very progressive. I'm not the old Democrat Joe Biden that you think of. But, I guess we'll see. And so thank you for watching What America's Thinking. We'll see you next time.